Lamar Jackson clapped back at a legendary NFL and Baltimore Ravens defensive back. We talk about that. The Ravens are bringing in a surprising familiar face, as well as more Ravens and Cowboys Week 2 analysis. We talk about that and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Are free and available for you on all podcasting platforms, including in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and in audio form where you can follow along and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. For 5 days a week here on Locked On Ravens, Monday through Friday, diving into another week of Baltimore Ravens conversation. The Ravens pick up a win over the Dallas Cowboys in week 2 of the preseason. We're going to be talking a lot about that in the final part of the show, breaking things down. We had a lot of analysis on that throughout the weekend. Obviously, we had the Locked On Ravens watch along during the game on Saturday. Right after that, we went into an instant reaction right after, and then of course, after that, we had the Locked On Ravens squad show with myself and Sam and Joku. So plenty of Ravens content and coverage for you here. And thanks to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners of the Summer in the Middle. Thank you as well. Again, we'll get to that preseason analysis a little more in the final part of the show because there's a lot to dive into there. But in the second part of the show, the Ravens brought in a surprising familiar face, and we'll talk about what that could maybe mean, if it means anything, if it means nothing. We'll dive into it. And then in the first part of the show here, Lamar Jackson, he clapped back at a legendary NFL defensive back, former Baltimore Ravens defensive back. Now, I was watching the game. We were watching it here on Locked On Ravens live, and I didn't have the headphones to listen to the game. I tried to get longer headphones, couldn't do it. I messed up. I had to watch the game in silence. During the broadcast, Rod Woodson, who obviously played for the Ravens, won a Super Bowl with the Ravens in 2000. He said he does analysis for the Ravens during the preseason games. He, works for the flagship and everything. He said that Lamar Jackson could not beat the 2000 Ravens defense. It was a big controversial thing. And Lamar Jackson ended up catching wind of this. There was a tweet that was put out about it by Chris Cooper. Shout out to Chris. He does a great job over there analyzing the game and putting out things about the Ravens. Lamar responded to the tweet that said Rod Woodson just said on air that Lamar couldn't beat the Ravens 2000 defense. And Lamar said, we're out 2 different eras, but it sounds good though. And then it kind of went into a little bit more of a rabbit hole. And there were a couple of people who responded to that. One person said, are we playing this under the rules of this era or that one? That era, I don't know, because they really punish the quarterback. This era, Lamar would slice through them. We get a lot of PI calls or roughing. Lamar said, I hear all that about the rules, but do you think I'll sit there and these people do what they did to other quarterbacks back then with the Roadrunner meet little gif that he put out there? And someone else said what he meant was you couldn't run the ball on them. And Lamar said, bro, I played for the Ravens. I'm not even against them. So let's put him on his Raiders team. I see a lot of running lanes with them, and I love me versus him in the open field. So, man, look, Lamar, I never hate on anybody who has confidence. I like that Lamar has the confidence. He also had another response. Someone said Lamar is the best football player ever, but the Ravens 2000 D was different. They had 350 defensive tackles and let them play 11 on 9. And Lamar responded to that and said, all y'all doing is making this a 1 versus 11 thing. Ask him what would he have done in the open field with him and I. I know for 1,000,000% he wasn't going to win that battle. Lamar leaving no stone unturned, no doubt in anybody's mind. He is beating that 2000 Ravens defense in his mind. And the actual interaction on the broadcast between obviously the Ravens announcer, Jerry Sandusky, and Rod Woodson they're both convinced they'd win a head-to-head matchup. Lamar believes he'll beat Ray, and Ray believes he'll beat Lamar. And Rod Woodson said, if Ray had the 2000s defense, yeah, I believe they'll beat Lamar. Jerry Sandusky then said, nobody's beaten that Ravens 2000s defense. You were a part of it. It has to be one of the 3 greatest defenses ever. Rod Woodson said, I believe so. So, look, Kadri Ismail, who played for that 2000 Ravens team, albeit as a wide receiver, he wasn't on the defense, He firmly believes it. I firmly believe it. A lot of people firmly believe that 2000 Ravens defense, you can talk about those Bears defenses, 1985 and whatnot, the Legion of Boom. The 2000 Ravens defense, in my mind, was the best of all time. So Lamar is saying, hey, you know what? I can go out there and I can beat that defense. I can beat Rod Woodson one-on-one in his prime. And look, Rod Woodson played for the Steelers for pretty much, it wasn't his whole career. Obviously, he played for the Ravens for a couple of years, but he was in Pittsburgh for the majority of his career. He played, let's do quick math, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seasons in Pittsburgh before spending a year in San Francisco, followed up by 4 years in Baltimore and then 2 with the then Oakland Raiders. So Lamar said put him on that team in 2002, 2003 when he was 37, 38 years old. Yeah, I mean, a 28-year-old Lamar Jackson is certainly going to get the better of 37, 38-year-old Rod Woodson. I do believe one-on-one, there aren't a lot of people that can stop Lamar Jackson. And Rod Woodson is a legendary defensive back. Again, Hall of Famer, like absolutely incredible career. 11-time Pro Bowler, 6-time All-Pro, Defensive Player of the Year in 1993. Like, he was incredible. And he was a part of that incredible Ravens defense. Now, one-on-one, I think Lamar probably has a point. I would probably say that Lamar would beat Rod Woodson one-on-one. But you have to look at it from the other side too. And I'm curious, if you're watching with us on YouTube, if you are listening with us in audio form, put down below in the comments, message me on social media, the whole 9 yards. Who would you take? Would you take Lamar Jackson versus that 2000 Ravens defense? Or would you take that 2000s defense against Lamar Jackson? There are a lot of different ways. And again, this is a fun segment before we kind of dive into the Ravens news, notes, and quotes, because obviously there's a lot there to talk about. But look, Lamar was very, hey, this is what would happen. I believe so much in this result that I'm going to beat Rod Woodson in that 2000 Ravens defense. I feel like the defense itself, like if we're talking 2024 Ravens offense or 2019 Ravens offense versus that 2000 Ravens defense, and they had to go down the field and score, I'm not sure that I want to read off some stats just for people that don't know how dominant that 2000 Ravens defense was, just so we can have all the stats before we, I guess, come to a conclusion. Lamar, actually, before we do that, there was another Eric Clark who, shout out to Eric, he ended up talking about a game on October 22nd, 2000. He said that's probably the script for the game for MVP. He called Lamar a one-of-one athlete, but the Titans won 14-6 in that game. And that was obviously Steve McNair. And Lamar obviously saluted McNair. He said, salute McNair, another former Raven, with the prayers up emoji. That 2000 Ravens defense, though, I mean, seriously, it was legitimately unbelievable just how insane that unit was. I mean, let's look at it here. Over the course of the 2000 season, they had an insane run. One of the things is that 2023 Ravens defense, they were allowing in November a touchdown percentage of only 8.7% of opposing teams' drives. That was the second best mark in the NFL since 2000, except for that 2000s Ravens defense, who over the course of that full season allowed just a touchdown on 8.2% of opposing drives. You also look at some of the other stats here. The Ravens defense in 2000 allowed 10.3 points per game. 10.3 points per game. You know how unheard of that is? That's unreal. 970 rushing yards for the whole season to go along with 49 takeaways. All those marks were obviously the best in the NFL. There are a couple of other things that you can look at with that unit. The fact they only allowed 165 total points throughout the entire course of the season. They had 4 shutouts. I mean, you can go on and on and on with how dominant that unit was. And some of the guys who were on that team, by the way, if you want to look at that roster, guys, it's unbelievable. Tony Siragusa, obviously Ray Lewis, Peter Bulwer, Michael McCrary, who was seen working with Mike Green off to the sideline a couple days ago at practice, Sam Adams, Rob Burnett, Jamie Sharper, Dwayne Starks, Chris McAllister, obviously Rod Woodson. He was a part of that unit as well. I mean, they had guys up and down that roster. And so to me, I think that if you're putting the best Ravens offense up against that 2000 Ravens defense, and you have to ask them to go for a drive and score. I'd probably say that they get stopped, that Lamar gets stopped. Now, if Lamar's going one-on-one against anybody, most people, I know that it's controversy between Ray and Lamar. Lamar probably wins most of, if not all, those battles. I think one-on-one, Lamar does have a point. But team defense-wise, even if it's with Derrick Henry and all those guys, I mean, it makes it tough. It makes it really tough. I don't know. I see both sides of it, but I'm going to go right now, just thinking about it on the fly here. That's what we do. You know, we react. I'm going to say that Lamar would win the one-on-one matchup with Rod Woodson. I think that's pretty obvious to me, at least. But I think the 2000 Ravens defense and a team, Ravens started their 20-yard line, have to go down the field and score a touchdown. Prime Lamar versus everybody on that defense in their prime. Man, I don't know. I feel like the 2000s defense might have that one. So I'm curious. I really am, because I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer. There are many different viewpoints and opinions on it that I'm sure we're going to get here and that have been already put out there. You know, it's kind of split when you look at social media right now, but not really what I was expecting to talk about here. You know, obviously I didn't hear Rod Woodson say that on the broadcast, but Lamar really said, hey, I'm going to make it clear to everybody. No, 2000 Ravens defense got nothing on me. Rod Woodson, nothing on me. So I'm curious to see if Rod Woodson responds to that. You know, I don't think that he expected it to kind of happen the way that it did here, what Lamar's response is. But again, Lamar left no stone unturned, and no doubt in anybody's mind, he believes he can beat that 2000 Ravens defense and Rod Woodson. But coming up in the second part of the show, the Ravens brought in a familiar face for a workout, and honestly, it was a little surprising who it was. So stay tuned. A lot coming next on Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by Betterhelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything. Cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes. But how do you know it actually works for you? With so much information online about mental health and wellness, it can be overwhelming to figure out what's true and what will actually help. That's where talking to a licensed therapist through BetterHelp can make all the difference. You get real personalized guidance instead of just guessing based on something you saw on social media. Therapy isn't just for navigating major challenges. It's also about building positive coping skills and learning how to set boundaries. Having a trusted professional to talk things through with can help cut through the noise, keep you focused on what matters most. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, serving more than 5 million people. It's easy to fit into your schedule. Just a click to connect, and you can even switch therapists anytime if you need to. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Back here on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still talking with you here on this Monday edition of the show. Another week. Appreciate everybody for being here. Had a great weekend talking about the Ravens, reacting to the Ravens, watching the Ravens. They picked up a big 31-13 win over the Cowboys. Going to dive into that a little bit more in the final part of the show. If you missed any of our instant reactions or want some in-depth analysis on that before we get to it on today's show, be sure you check out all of that. We just finished talking about Lamar Jackson making it known to Rod Woodson and others that he would beat that 2000 Ravens defense and Rod Woodson. And hey, for all that we talked about that 2000 Ravens defense and all the stats and everything, all the players, you got a 2-time MVP on the other side there. Should be 3-time, but that's not the conversation we're having right now. 2-time MVP, electric passer, electric runner, someone that can do it all as a quarterback. I mean, it's not going to be an easy task for either Lamar Jackson or that 2000 Ravens defense. So fun hypotheticals that Lamar Jackson was able to give us on a Sunday evening there. This all kind of happened after the game, the day after. So Lamar said he was going to enjoy his day off, and hopefully he was able to do that. So fun conversation there. But the Ravens, there was something that popped up for them in terms of a move. We'll get into some of what John Harbaugh said over the course of this segment and the next one as well. But the Ravens have worked out veteran cornerback Kyle Fuller. This came across the NFL transaction wire. Now, this one's interesting. If you're thinking and wondering, Kevin, that name, it sounds pretty familiar, Kyle Fuller. Well, you'd be correct, because Kyle Fuller spent a year with the Ravens. He's a Baltimore native. He is someone that has had a long NFL career. He played with the Ravens in 2022, and he actually tore his ACL in the first game of that season. So he didn't really get opportunity to show or shine for the Ravens. He's 33 years old now. He's had a very decorated career. You know, he's someone that I think at this point in his career is not near the player that he was. He's a two-time Pro Bowler, one-time first-team All-Pro over the course of his career, 444 total tackles to go along with 19 interceptions and 4 forced fumbles. But the thing with Kyle Fuller is that he hasn't played in the NFL since that injury. He last appeared in the league with the Ravens in 2022. It's been essentially 2023, 2024, 2025. It's going to be two seasons, 2 full seasons, and 3 actual seasons since he last played. I guess he played a full season 4 years ago in 2021. That was his last full season in the NFL when he spent a year with the Denver Broncos. So, he missed all of 2024, all of 2023, all but 1 game in 2022. That's essentially 3 full seasons straight, albeit 1 game of him not playing. Now, he's 33 years old now. So, at this point, it would probably be for practice squad. Maybe the Ravens signed him here and we'll have to talk about why they signed him. I think this is just like a checking in thing. Like, hey, what are you up to? Still want to play? I don't know if they have, they have players that deserve roster spots more than Kyle Fuller. So this could be a practice squad thing. But then there are also players that deserve the practice spots more than Kyle Fuller. And that's no disrespect to Kyle Fuller, but if a guy like Keon Martin doesn't make the roster, well, if he clears waivers, I want Keon Martin on the practice squad. Those are those types of guys that I would want there. Now, maybe they can add Keon Martin and a guy like Kyle Fuller. I don't know. But I guess they really liked what he brought to the team in that 2022 season, albeit, I guess, from a locker room perspective and a vet leader perspective. I know that some people are freaking out about Jaire Alexander and his knee right now, and if this move has anything to do with that, or if them bringing him in for a workout has anything to do with that. Again, he is not signed yet, but I don't think so. I mean, the Ravens, I think, are just kind of being cautious with Jaire. I know that the injury situations in Baltimore can be vague, and there's not a lot of information about them sometimes, but I'm not relating this to Jaire. I think it's more just for literally veteran depth. I mean, I think having vet depth on the practice squad is good. And again, it might not even happen. He might not even get signed. I don't really know. I'm sure John Harbaugh will be asked about it when he talks to the media next and give other updates as well. But just very surprising that of all of the players available, thinking of names that they could potentially bring in and positions and whatnot, Kyle Fuller is the one that ends up getting the call from the Ravens here. So that was interesting. We also talked about some other updates from John Harbaugh. Adisa Isaac dislocated his elbow, so he's going to be out for at least a few weeks, which is a tough injury. We talked about kind of that timeline on our reaction shows where it can range anywhere from a few weeks to a few months, depending on how severe that is. So I'm sure we'll get an update on that, but I would assume that he will go on IR, at least designated to return. If it's a more serious injury, obviously he could be lost for the season, which is really unfortunate because I thought that he looked good in that first preseason game and then didn't really have an opportunity in the second one. He got injured on special teams, I believe it was. So that'd be a big loss. It opens up other opportunities, and you hate to have those opportunities opened up like that. But, that's something that we're going to have to monitor as well. Other than that, though, the Ravens got out of that game pretty healthy. We got some other updates from John Harbaugh and stuff as well. So we'll talk about that coming up in the final part of the show, because it's not only roster things, it's position battles, which were won, as well as we'll get into some other analysis. There were some stats that have already come out about Mike Green, Daniel Falele, Andrew Voorhees, and a lot more. So stay tuned. Plenty coming your way on this edition of Locked On Ravens. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me and Locked On Ravens are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. One of my favorite features are the new Guillotine Leagues. They just dropped, and every week the lowest-scoring teams eliminated, and the last one standing wins. Whether you're all in on something new or you like sticking to head-to-head leagues or jumping into public leagues, Yahoo's got you covered. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team that's eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. The season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now, yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Back here on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher talking with you here, still diving into all the Ravens coverage that we can here on Locked On Ravens. We have it all, watch-alongs, instant reaction shows, lives after every game, and every single piece of Ravens big news. Obviously, the main show here, Locked On Ravens, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. We have the Locked On Ravens Squad show with myself, Sam Njoku, and former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail. I'm actually excited to ask you the question we talked about in the first part of the show, obviously with him being a part of that team. And I know what his answer is going to be. I can predict it for you right here. He's going to pick the 2000 Ravens defense. But again, good arguments on both sides there. Interestingly enough, with Kyle Fuller, actually, I just thought of this right now. Let's look quickly at the NFL free agent cornerbacks that are still available, at least at this point in the offseason. Because Kyle Fuller is an interesting pull here, especially for a guy that essentially hasn't played in 3 years. So Asante Samuel Jr., Rasul Douglas, Stephon Gilmore, Kendall Fuller, so another Fuller there, Emmanuel Mosley, James Bradbury, Cam Sutton, Kadar Holman, who has spent time with the Ravens. So Trayvon Mullen, he's up on this list as well. Eli Apple, there's a guy. Ravens legend, technically, because he gave up some plays to Marcus Robinson, I guess, maybe, or Ravens villain. Eli Apple, I guess, is a better way to put that. But yeah, I mean, Asante Samuel Jr., Rasul Douglas, Stephon Gilmore, those three, I feel like if the Ravens are looking for a vet, now again, those three probably don't want to be on the practice squad, right? They're looking for roles. So if Kyle Fuller's like, hey, I'll just be on a practice squad. If you need me there, you can sign me. It's different because sometimes it is about role, and you can't, the Ravens are building a super team. I think they have a super team. Like, you can talk about that. But I think at the end of the day, the Ravens right now, there's not a lot of room on their roster. So you have to look at specific types of roles for guys. And sometimes that is just end of the roster practice squad. And so for the three I mentioned, sometimes it doesn't work that way where they don't want to have that role. So it's an interesting one. We'll see if anything ends up developing out of it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But of course, him being brought in for a workout certainly is going to raise some eyebrows considering the history. And unfortunately, how his season ended in 2022. No one wanted to see that. It was a tough play. And I had high hopes for him that season. It just didn't work out. So we'll see. But the Ravens, they beat the Cowboys 31-13. A lot of analysis to dive into there. Obviously, we had plenty of it over the weekend, but just diving into a recap of that, of obviously the Ravens got better quarterback play from both Cooper Rush and Devin Leary in this game, which if they didn't, I'd be pretty concerned considering the fact that they were pretty bad in week one. So you have Cooper Rush going 20-30, 198 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. I'm really only going to dock him for the one. The second one to Rasheen Ali obviously bounced off of Ali's hands into the defender's arms. So that one was not on Cooper Rush. He was better. I mean, his pocket mobility was better. He was throwing some strikes. He and Tez Walker obviously had that connection. Tez on the day, 6 for 61. So 10.2 yards per target. He had 8 targets. 6 of those were catchable, though, and he caught all 6 of them. So shout out to Tez for that. Rasheen Ali, 19 for 62 on the day. And John Harbaugh asked about Ali, kind of talked about his roster spot and said, hey, the plan right now is to keep 4 running backs, which would signal good things for Rasheen Ali. Keaton Mitchell still dealing with a hamstring injury. Harbaugh saying that he could play in this upcoming week's game against the Commanders on Saturday, but, said it'd be fine for week 1. So that's better news. I'm not playing Keaton Mitchell in that game, by the way, especially at FedEx. Not doing it. Not doing it. If you remember another Ravens running back, I'm not going to even speak of the instance of what I'm talking about back in 2021. But if you know, it was J.K. Dobbins. All right, fine. It was J.K. Don't want to have that situation happen again. I don't need to see Keaton Mitchell in the preseason again. Rasheen Ali, he had some bursts. Ernest Johnson went 11 for 61. He was finding holes. He scored. Myles Gaskin, I was really impressed with him. He showed some burst. We talked about Tez and the other receiver game. Anthony Miller, 4 for 55. Dayton Wade, 4 for 45. Gaskin had a nice reception. Charlie Kohler had 3 for 20 there. So solid there. Offensive line-wise, Daniel Falele, Andrew Voorhees, Roger Rosengarten, they looked better. It was actually Ben Cleveland and Joseph Noteboom, who did not look good in this one. I mean, Falele and Andrew Voorhees, right here, I see a stat. I saw it somewhere. I can't remember where. It's on social media here. Apparently that they tied for the number one pass blocking grade on the team versus the Cowboys. No sacks, no hits, no pressures, no hurries. You could see Falele holding his blocks better, disengaging and helping on the other side when he needed to, picking up guys, sealing off. Like, I think that we saw some good things. It wasn't perfect, that there were still some things that he can improve on, but this week it was Ben Cleveland getting pulled in his butt, not Daniel Falele. So look, as long as he improved there, I would have been happy, and he certainly did that in this game. On the defensive side of the ball, Mike Green didn't have necessarily the box score performance you would think, but man, was he active. There was a stat that was put together, or stats put together here by PFF McCree. I don't know how to pronounce it. I apologize. But from PFF McCree here, I'll just go with that. 2 games for Mike Green. He got 30 pass rushing snaps, 5 pressures, 16.7% pressure rate, 30% pass rush win rate, and 86.4% pass rush grade. That is just unreal. That is unbelievable. He was making an impact throughout the game. He had a great 4th down stop where he stacked and shedded the tight end, and he made a play alongside Teddy Buchanan and Sanusi Kane. Speaking of Teddy Buchanan, he played really well. He was all over the place. You have a lot of others. Ruben Lowry had an interception. He was all over the place playing special teams, safety, the whole 9 yards there. You had Keon Martin with the safety. He was great. All over the place. These guys, they were flying on the defensive side of the ball. Aeneas Peebles was really good. I thought that even though he didn't impact the box score a ton, he had a lot of pressures, and just the way that he plays with his pad level is really exciting as well. Like he gets super low, and he was a force of nature as well. Jay Higgins led the team with 6 tackles. He had a forced fumble, which was great. Malik Ham got in the action with a sack. Keandre Jackson, another defensive back, he had 4 tackles in this game. TJ Tampa was kind of up and down, but I thought that playing time was good for him. Some disappointments. David Ajabo didn't look as good in this game. Trenton Simpson didn't really flash for me in this one. Bo Braid seems to be losing some of his maybe roster stickiness, might not be so sure of a thing anymore. John Harbaugh kind of talked about him a little bit. So that was disappointing. Shout out to also CJ Ravenel, who had a great game in this one also. Chandler Martin. There were a lot of guys on defense that just popped despite not having a huge box score day, but it was absolutely dominant for the Ravens, 31-13. The Cowboys held to just 7 first downs compared to the Baltimore's 26, 2 of 11 on 3rd down for the Cowboys compared to Baltimore's 8 for 17, 176 compared to Baltimore's 399 in terms of total yards. Plus, the Ravens held the ball for 40 minutes compared to the Cowboys' 20. So you love that. It was a great showing. I think the Ravens are very happy with the majority of what they saw in this game. Harbaugh also announced Tyler Loop won the kicking job. And guess what? Tyler Loop in this game, can't forget him, 5 of 6 on field goals with a couple of 50-yarders thrown in there as well. He made from 53, 51. He made from 40 plus. He made from 30 plus. He was all over the place in a good way. His only miss came from 50 yards. He went wide to the left there. But look, I'm not complaining. Tyler Loop to me was awesome. So 53, 51, 42, 36, 29, the official makes, plus the 2 extra points for Tyler Loop. 7 kicks made, just 1 missed kick. So really good overall for the Ravens. Really excited to see how they are able to respond in week 3. Guys fighting for roster spots. We'll see how that all unfolds. But that's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. On the way out, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form for 5 days a week of daily Ravens coverage. I'll see you right back here soon. We got the Locked On Ravens squad show tonight. Stay tuned. I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.